So here's this OmniDEL approach that looks at sort of the dimensions of the human being. And then there's a social dimension, you know, the context into which we're doing this. I mean, this is another, I mean, I've been discovering this. When you and I met, we were thinking about America as the market. And we wandered around, you know, like itinerants saying, you know, we've got this great technology and we want to do something meaningful with it. And people would say, oh, that's wonderful, but the economics didn't make any sense. And then all of a sudden it dawned on us that in India there's this enormous, I mean, what I frame the educational gold rush. The amount of training and education that's going to go on here in the next 10 years is historic. There's nothing like it. But that's a context. That's a business, you know, vocational training, for example. That's a business context. So on this one hand, there's the individual dimension, the OmniDEL, but on the other is this huge mass. That's an enormous challenge to impact human beings on this very personal, engaged individual level, and then to scale that. Talk about your thoughts about how you see scaling this kind of profound impact into a vocational market.
Yeah, so that's where we started from. I mean, my whole journey in this realm of my professional life, in the realm of education, started with scaling. How do we scale great learning experiences? How do we create effective learning experiences and make sure that it reaches everyone? That was the first problem which I started 25 years back, so while still in college. And when we met, which was a good, 12, 13 years after I had started, I'd already kind of reached a place where I thought I had the wherewithal in terms of the technology, multimedia and all that, how to use all this to reach out effectively to a lot of people. So that was the scale issue was kind of solved 12 years back, at least in my mind. Then there was a second more profound realization was with the solution to the how do we reach more people came the responsibility of what do we reach more people with. And that's the search with which, that you and I, along with our team, kind of embarked on and have been on for the last 12 years. And that discovery of the what is important, what is meaningful, has actually impacted the how in more profound ways. And so the scale and the depth hence go hand in hand. Because we've had too many models, especially in the last decade or the last 2 decades, which were primarily technology driven, which were trying to address the scale issue. These do not work, because it's education. We are talking about human transformation. It takes time. And to scale the human transformation process is not easy. Religion has done it over years, but it always takes time. So how do we marry these two things of scale and depth is where we have arrived today, and that's what I'm sure all of you are so excited about, because at last there seems to be this one thing which marries scale and depth together.
I'm sort of trying to discover why at this point. 12 years in, I'm spending not less time here in India, more time in India. And part of it is the idea of scale. India is going through this enormous vocational training upheaval. 150 million is National Skill Development Corporation's targets for the next 10 years, and your capacity to scale transformative kinds of experiences is remarkable to me.